All right, let's look at what happened in part 2 of season 7 of Outlander. When we last saw them, Jamie, Claire, and Ian were traveling to Scotland to deliver the body of Simon Fraser, while Roger and Buck traveled through the stones after Rob Cameron and Jemmy, leaving Brianna and Mandy behind. After the funeral, Jamie and crew head to Lollybrock, where they are greeted warmly by Jenny, Michael, and young Jamie. Ian is crushed to learn the news that his father is dying. Claire says he has consumption and is beyond any help she can give. Jamie goes to see Leary and apologize. She takes it in the usual fashion, arguing and then throwing a bucket at him. Joseph rushes to Leary's defense, and Jamie strikes him, then leaves when he sees the obvious love between them. Young Ian tells his father about his son, Swiftest of Lizards, confirming what we all guessed, and then about Rachel. Ian urges him to go to her, saying he'd pass easier knowing his son was settled with a wife. After learning about Michael living in France, Claire decides to tell the whole family she is a time traveler in order to warn Michael about the upcoming dangers there. Afterward, Jenny pleads with Claire to save Ian, and when Claire says she can't, Jenny lashes out, saying Claire may have no soul. Joni shows up and asks Jamie for help. She wants to join a convent, and Leary won't release her dowry. Plus, she can't leave her mother living in sin with Joseph, but they can't marry without losing alimony and the property. Jamie comes up with a compromise where Leary takes ownership of the property after she marries Joseph, with the condition that Joni may attend the convent of her choosing with a small stipend from him, and the property would not pass to Joseph when Leary dies. Claire receives a letter from Lord John asking for her help. His nephew is gravely wounded, and she is their last hope. She doesn't want to leave Ian, but Jamie tells her that he will stay and she should go. Jenny agrees, saying if she can't help Ian, she should go to the one she can. Ian writes a letter to Rachel telling her not to wait for him, as his duty is to his family. Jenny rips it up and takes him to see the gravestone they made for Ian's lost daughter, saying she will always have a place with us, among family, as will you, so go to Rachel now, your father wants you to. While saying their goodbyes, Jenny apologizes to Claire for speaking out of grief. Claire accepts, and she and Ian take off for Philadelphia. Roger and Buck wake up at the stones, having successfully traveled through time, though Buck complains of his chest hurting. They decide to split up. Buck will go to Inverness and Roger to Lollybrock. When Roger arrives, he is shocked when Brian Fraser, Jamie's late father, answers the door, showing he is in the wrong time. Brian is welcoming and takes him around to ask if anyone has seen anything. A ferryman in strange clothing has been seen, but then young Jenny comes up saying Buck has fallen ill. Roger goes to him, and then takes him to the nearest healer, which just happens to be one Galus Duncan. Jamie and Ian have a last day together, but eventually, whispering Jenny's name, he passes. In Philadelphia, Claire arrives at the home of Mercy Woodcock, and immediately gets to work helping Henry. John prepared for her arrival by buying out the town supply of vitriol. She finds out that William and the hunters are in town as well. William and Rachel are at the market, Rollo at her heels. They have some playful banter, and it's obvious William is taken with her. Rollo runs off, and Rachel attempts to follow, thinking he may have sensed Ian, but she loses him. Rollo does find Ian, but it is Arch Bug who spots Rachel. Claire proceeds with the surgery, Denzel and Mercy helping her. She finds the elusive musket ball and is able to remove it, Denzel watching closely. Afterward, Mercy asks Claire about her husband Walter, and Claire has to tell her about his passing. Rachel is looking for Rollo in the stables when Archbug attacks. Rachel tries to talk him out of killing her, but he is undeterred. Ian appears just in time and they fight. Just as it looks like Arch will get the final blow, William appears and shoots him. Once doctored up, Ian and Rachel declare their love for one another, and despite their differences, decide to make it work. Claire has been visiting a garden outside the city for medicinal plants. Mercy asks if she might deliver an important letter meant for General Washington. Claire does so, but on her return, she finds John with a visitor looking very upset. They tell her that the ship Jamie was on was lost at sea, and there were no survivors. Claire denies it, saying she would have felt if his heart stopped. They insist, and she collapses in anguish. Roger and Buck speak with Galus, who asks if they've met before. Obviously, Roger knows why he looks familiar, Galus being Buck's mother and all. But he says nothing, and she brews a tea for Buck's chest pain. Roger asks about Cameron, and it's clear she has no idea who he's talking about. Then, Dougal shows up. Wow, it is so nice to see him again, and gives Roger a charm which he recognizes. Then we realize that this is Dougal and Gaelus's first time meeting. What a surreal throwback to season 1. Once alone, Buck asks if the charm is Cameron's. Roger says, no, it's not a charm, they're dog tags, and they belonged to my father. Back in Philadelphia, Captain Richardson shows up to arrest Claire as a spy, but because of John's station, he is given a day's notice. John immediately goes to a distraught Claire and insists they marry for her protection. The marriage is performed with poor grief-stricken Claire just going through the motions. Ian creates a cairn of rocks, speaking of both his father and his uncle. Then he tells Rachel all the details of his past. She's a bit taken aback, but she listens and accepts him for who he is. Claire and John are both grieving Jamie, each turning to alcohol. John decides they will not mourn alone tonight, and things get weird. They wake up next to each other, Claire acknowledging neither was making love to the other last night. They were both envisioning Jamie, is the subtext. Known as the big event, this is a polarizing moment in the Outlander story. Do you love it or hate it? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. It leaves me unsettled. I think Jamie's massive plot armor tells me he's still alive, and I can't separate that and form an unbiased reaction. Henry tells John he doesn't plan to go back to England, but wishes to remain and marry Mercy instead. John reacts poorly, saying it is illegal and he would be disowned for such an action. Claire admonishes him as a bigot, but he points out he knows what it is like for his love to be a crime, and he is only trying to protect his nephew. John then gives Claire a dress, as they will be hosting a supper and she must play the part of his wife. She refuses at first, but eventually shows up looking amazing. Peggy Chew hits up William for a dance, but he unceremoniously shuts her down. Claire asks why, and he admits his feelings for Rachel. Claire ends up dancing with Captain Richardson, who reveals while in the middle of a crowded dance floor that he is in fact a rebel. Not the kind of thing one usually discusses so brazenly. He asks her to spy on Lord John, and she refuses, but promises discretion as they are on the same side. Brianna is stuck at home and gets frustrated by a malfunctioning drawer. She releases her pent-up rage on it and ends up injuring her hand. While she's bandaging it, Rob Cameron appears and threatens her if she doesn't make Jemmy tell him where the Spaniard and the gold are. She realizes he set up the scarf at the stones to get Roger out of the way. Bree waits for her chance and then clocks him hard with a pan and knocks him out. John tells Claire they have several invites and should probably go to at least one of the events. A commotion downstairs draws their attention and Jamie bursts into the room. Claire immediately goes to him. John says he hates to break up the reunion, but, quote, your son is due home shortly. Jamie and Claire go to leave, but William is standing outside the door. He heard what John said and is justifiably furious at the secret that has been kept from him for so many years. He curses Jamie and says, I don't want anything of yours, shoving the rosary at him. William turns on John, but soldiers come up the stairs. Thinking quickly, Jamie takes John hostage and exits the house, leaving Claire unable to hide her glee that Jamie is in fact alive and well. Once outside of the city, Jamie aims to let Lord John go. He thanks John for taking care of Claire, but John can't hold it in anymore and blurts out, I've had carnal knowledge of your wife. Jamie is calm at first, just asking why. But once he actually believes him, he starts beating John relentlessly as John tries to explain and doesn't fight back. A group of rebels interrupt the fight, and Jamie ends up giving John to them. Jamie leaves, saying, we are not finished, and John shouts that he is not sorry. Jamie returns to Morgan, who introduces him to General Washington. Impressed by his cunning, Washington promotes Jamie to Brigadier General. Back at the house, William asks Claire about the circumstances of his birth. She answers the best she can, but he loses his temper and storms out, breaking many things along the way. Wandering the streets muttering, a prostitute stops him and invites him inside. Already on the brink, when she embarrasses him, he loses his temper. She calls for help and has him removed. Back on duty, William is happy to see Rachel. Less so Ian. She tells him they are betrothed, and William loses his temper again, though apologizes immediately. He confronts Ian about knowing Jamie was his father, and it comes to blows. Small note here, Ian still thinks Jamie is dead, so his defense of his uncle is as much out of grief as honor, totally understandable. William has Ian arrested, and Rachel gets so angry at him she actually slaps him. Very un-Quaker-like. Jamie rides up and sees Ian as a prisoner. Ian's face here is priceless, from confusion to joy at seeing his uncle alive. Jamie immediately grabs William and demands he release Ian. William does so while still cursing Jamie. Lord John is taken to Colonel Smith, who tells him that his cousin, General Charles Grey, led a brutal attack that is known as the Powley Massacre. He sends him to medical, and John is relieved to see Denzel, who says his eye is severely damaged and he needs to wear an eye patch. John tells him about Jamie's return. Later, Denzel brings John some stew and slips him a blade with the spoon, saying he heard John is to be hanged and he must escape tonight. William is back at the brothel and listening to Harkness talk about unsavory things he likes to do with the women. William buys Arabella for the night, though Harkness lays claim to her. William offers more money and she goes with him. Once alone, he tells her he has no intention of laying with her. This is just to make up for before. Slowly she wears him down, telling him her real name is Jane, and they do end up sleeping together. Jamie confronts Claire about that night with John. He is both understanding and jealous as she tries to explain the strange circumstances. Finally, he just takes her right on the dining room table. John manages to free himself and slip out, but the alarm is sent up, and as we see John running, a shot rings out behind him. Back in 1980, Bree has Cameron tied up in the priest hole. She attempts to call the police, but the lines have been cut. She grabs Mandy to go to them, but on the way, Mandy starts to feel Jem again, and Brianna uses her daughter's connection to try to locate him. Meanwhile, Jem is scared and yelling for help. He channels his granny for courage and figures out he's in the dam. Following his mom's story from when she was locked in, he begins to make his way out. Ian and Jamie are preparing for the wedding and talk of the wedding night. Denzel arrives just in time and tells Jamie about seeing Lord John at the rebel camp. Claire and Mercy help Rachel get ready and speak of the hardship of marriage during wartime. The wedding begins, and it is oddly silent. I guess they all just wait around until the spirit moves them to speak. Jamie accidentally goes first, then Denzel, and finally Ian and Rachel, who do end up married by the end. Roger realizes they are near the future location of the dam and remembers Bree talking about the mist she encountered. They go in search of it and reach some stones. At the same time, Jeremiah is near the mist in the future. It seems he hears his father calling for him. John wakes to a pistol pointed at his head, giving no regard to the cliffhanger of the last episode. He pretends to have been taken prisoner by the British Army and escaped, and the Continental officer seems to believe him. Rachel and Ian have their wedding night, a sweet and tender moment amidst the chaos around them. In the morning, Ian vows to honor her beliefs by only killing if he absolutely has to. Roger and Buck finally find Jerry Mackenzie wandering in the woods. Roger is able to gain his trust by stating facts from his father's time. Jerry explains that his engines failed and he went down in the moors. He survived but leaned against some stones and ended up here. Roger doesn't get long to talk with his father before locals start chasing them and they hurry to the stones. Roger explains to Jerry what to do and says a last "I love you" as his father disappears. Jamie gets decked out in his new general uniform and talks to Claire about why they have to see this war through. Claire quips that at least it's the right color this time. Bree is still following Mandy's feelings when she realizes they are near the dam and figures that Cameron must have taken Jemmy there. She turns around and eventually almost runs over Jem on the road. With him safe at last, she brings the police to her house to collect Rob Cameron. They are all shocked when they open the priest hole and he's not there. The police are entirely unhelpful at this point, and Bree takes the kids to Fiona and Ernie for safety as she goes and meets the locksmith, fearing Cameron has keys to the house. Roger is a bit disappointed he didn't immediately get flooded with new memories, meaning his father might not have made it back. He only gained a solitary image that may not be a memory at all. He reasons the stones sent them here to help him, and starts thinking Jem isn't in this time after all. A flashback shows us John speaking with his brother Hal about the war. John argues for peace, but swears to his brother that he will never support independency. Cut to John swearing loyalty to the United States of America. Jamie is informed that he will be hosting Washington's meeting of generals that night, a fact Mrs. Figg is none too happy about. Claire runs into Marquis de Lafayette in the market, and they feel an instant kinship, bonding over a love of cheese. At dinner that night, there is some unrest among the generals, but Jamie keeps them on task. Lafayette shares some of his delicacies with Claire and introduces his aide, Percival Beecham. Claire is excited to hear her maiden name, but it seems there's no relation. As a thank you for hosting the dinner, Washington presents them with an American flag. Claire holds it with much reverence. They end with a toast to the USA and to victory. William returns to his British camp and is admonished for his appearance. Fuming at the exchange, he goes to his tent to change clothes when Jane walks in with her sister Frances. Jane is seeking his protection from Harkness. He eventually agrees and makes her his laundress. He's shocked to learn that she doesn't know how to use money, having been at the brothel since age 10. Jamie is meeting his men while Claire is at work in the medical tent. She suddenly spots Lord John among her patients. She calls Jamie over, and John surrenders to him immediately. Claire takes him home and performs a painful eye-moving procedure. Ian teaches Rachel to help him with his war paint before battle. He places a dove over his heart and says he carries her with him always. Jane tells William they are leaving, and he tries to stop her. Finally, with Fanny's encouragement, Jane tells the truth. She killed Harkness for trying to violate Fanny. It's the magistrate she needs protection from. William agrees, and Fanny thanks him. Richardson sends William with a message he claims is very important. Claire is examining Lord John when Percival shows up with a message. Turns out he is John's stepbrother, with allusions to maybe other stuff. Once alone, Percy drops the accent and tells John that Richardson is trying to discredit his family by sending William to a trap. John tells Jamie and Claire, but they can't leave the army. So Jamie sends John with Ian and says, "Go save our son." What a statement. We see William arrive at the Hessian camp, and indeed, once they read the letter, they insist he stay for supper. Bree gets home and finds a note that the locksmith has left already. Suspicious, she grabs her shotgun and stakes out the house, seeing at least 2 people inside. Then she sees Fiona's van pulling up and runs to stop them. She gets everyone back in the van, firing shots to keep the 2 men at bay, but as they are pulling away, they see Rob Cameron arriving. Fiona explains that Cameron was at her house, and they knew it wasn't safe. As they are fleeing, the van breaks down. Bree tries to fix it while telling Fiona it may be time for her and the kids to go and get Roger. Jamie and Claire are preparing for the Battle of Monmouth. As he goes, Jamie turns back to promise her he won't die today. Claire goes into the field hospital at Tenet Church, where she meets Dr. Lecky, the surgeon in charge. Dr. Lecky dismisses her as a woman, despite Denzel's protests, and Claire heads outside to do triage with Rachel. Lord John and Ian approach the Hessian camp where William was sent. Ian tries to convince the Hessian officer to hand him over, but it doesn't work. One of them raises his pistol to shoot William, but John draws and takes him out. A fight ensues, but Ian captures the officer and William is freed. Thinking of Rachel, Ian chooses to let the man go, but then he tells Ian he will regret it. Their job done, Ian and John go their separate ways. Ian doubles back and takes the Hessian officer out after all, saying, "You're right, I would have regretted it." Back at camp, William confronts John, asking who he really is. John explains things and finally says, "You are my son." Suddenly, Fanny appears, distraught, saying someone recognized Jane and she's been arrested. Buck asks Roger if he thinks his father was a time traveler, and Roger admits who Buck's parents are. Buck is angry, calling out Roger as a hypocrite for saying his piece to his own father while denying Buck the same opportunity. He has a point. They head back to Lollybrock. Buck writes a letter to Galis, thanking her for her help, his way of speaking to his mother. Roger writes a letter to Bree explaining they are in the wrong time and puts it in the secret compartment of the desk, hoping Bree will find it in the future. Very Lake House vibes. Bree does in fact find the letter as she was hiding one of her own, and now knows where to find Roger. She and the kids go to the stones, and as soon as Mandy gets her gem, she says "Daddy," and runs for the stones. Back at the battle, Claire brings a man with a chest wound into the hospital, and despite Dr. Lecky's objections, she tells him he's wrong and does what she needs to and saves him. Jamie gets word that the British are nearing the church, and he quickly takes his men that direction. The hospital begins to evacuate, but Claire refuses to leave her patients. Lecky is frustrated, but compliments her, even calling her doctor. The Redcoats are walking past, but don't attack. Jamie shows up and sees Claire just as a fight breaks out and shots are fired. Claire is hit, and Jamie rushes to her side. Bixby helps him carry her inside. Dr. Lecky assesses her quickly and says there's nothing to be done and leaves. Jamie has choice words for him, but Claire asks for Denny. A messenger comes demanding Jamie go to see General Lee. Jamie refuses, then writes his resignation in blood on the poor boy's back. Jamie sends Bixby to get Denzel. Jamie is left alone, praying for Claire, saying, "The stars will not burn out, and nor will we." Denzel and Rachel show up and immediately get to work. Rachel has cheese from Lafayette, which will have the needed penicillin, and Denzel gets to work performing the surgery he watched Claire do not that long ago. Jane is being interviewed and gives the dude nothing. She says, "I will not give any more of myself to any man." Later, we see her drinking while staring at the lights in the sky, and she solemnly waves to the heavens. Claire is recovering well, the surgery a success. Jamie stays by her side even while she's telling strange facts about elephants. Ian returns with the good news about William, and Jamie tells him he's leaving the army to be with Claire. William goes to John for help with Jane's situation. John finds out where she's being kept, but says she signed a confession and they are in martial law, so there will be no trial, there's nothing to be done. Claire asks Jamie if they can go home now. That night, she wakes and a mysterious figure appears. It's Master Raymond. You remember the guy from all the way back in season 2? She sees the same blue ink blot thingy she did the night she lost Faith. He says he came to apologize, and she will eventually know why. In the morning, Jamie says none of it happened, and it must have been a dream. John shows up to see Claire, and we see there is still tension between John and Jamie. Later, William shows up and asks for Jamie's help saving Jane. Jamie says his son has never asked anything of him and agrees to help. They sneak up to the cabin and quietly break in. After subduing the only guard, they find Jane already passed by her own hand. Devastated, William places her neatly on the bed, and Jamie takes a lock of her hair for her sister. William takes Fanny to meet Jamie and Claire. They invite her to come and live on the ridge with them, Jamie promising his protection. William asks Jamie about his mother, and Jamie tells him about some of her better qualities. Finally, William says he will not call him father. Claire comforts Fanny by talking about memories of Jane. Fanny tells of her love of dragonflies and the dancing lights. Her mother told them the lights were angels, and if you waved at them, they would carry you up to heaven. In Jane's things, they find a locket with a picture of their mother that says Faith on the back. Claire is taken aback, but doesn't voice anything yet. Ian and Rachel discuss moving to the ridge, and while she'll miss her brother, she wants a happy place to raise a family because, yes, she is pregnant. Overjoyed with the wonderful news, Ian wakes the next morning to find poor Rollo has passed in his sleep. This one got me, I admit. They made several remarks throughout the season about his age, but it still felt sudden and unceremonious. But I guess he was quite old. R.I.P. Rollo, you were a good boy. Bree and the kids show up and meet Roger and Buck. The family finally reunited again in 1739. With Cameron there, it's not safe to go back home, so they discuss where and when they should go. While packing up for the ridge, Claire hears Fanny in the church singing. The song is one that Claire sang to Faith, but is also from the 1900s. Fanny says her mother sang it to her. And now Claire is ready to reveal her suspicion. She tells Jamie that she thinks their daughter Faith lived, after all. And that's where we leave Season 7, Part 2 of Outlander. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this one, and leave a comment of any other shows you'd like to see me cover. And I will see you in the next video.